Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Women's Physique Division Pro. Today's guest is Melissa Teich. Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, Melissa, we are going to just get into the nuts and bolts of your story, bodybuilding, powerlifting, kind of all the things. I know you just competed at the Olympia a couple of weeks ago. But before we get to all of that, I want to ask you, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I would have to say Jay Cutler, Michaela Aycock, and currently Derek Lunsford.
Okay. All right. Why Jay Cutler? Why is he in there?
He's the legend, baby.
For sure. Who's the first, is Jay Cutler, or was it somebody else that was kind of like the first like pro bodybuilder that you saw in the magazines or somewhere else? Do you remember who that was? Who was it?
By the time I got into it, I'd probably have to say Jay Cutler. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then at some point, Michaela's going to come on the podcast. I've been going back and forth with her on Instagram, just kind of trying to get things coordinated. She's come up a couple times. Actually, a couple of the male guests have brought her up, and it's always kind of like when I ask why Michaela, they talk about her training. Is that kind of something that is appealing to you as well? Her training,
her work ethic. She's just a genuine person. I just love that girl.
Cool. All right, awesome. All right, so Melissa, at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
I started back in 2010. I was a nursing student at the time, and I was just trying to keep myself busy to get through nursing school, not even knowing that I was going to end up competing someday. So I basically just did it to keep my mental health in check while I was getting started in nursing school.
Okay. So like, if you don't mind me asking, like what age were you, like your early 20s or something, or?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay. All right. Now I want to ask you, how did you, so you didn't lift weights at all, like for sports or anything like that when you're in high school?
I was a swimmer. So, I mean, I had been to the gym a time or two, but I didn't like have a gym membership or do any regimented lifting. It was just, sporadic here and there.
Okay. So how did you then kind of like find the weights then, like in college? Because most of us are exposed to it, in high school because of sports. How did you kind of find yourself at the gym lifting weights? Most girls do kind of more of the cardio stuff. So what was the attraction? How did you find yourself at that place in college?
Well, I was just like most females. I started out just doing cardio, and I had a couple trainers approach me. This was back when, I don't know if they have Bally's Total Fitness anywhere anymore, but that was back when that chain was big. That was my first gym membership. So I had hired a trainer there who kind of taught me how to do some things. And then I moved on to a smaller private gym, continued to work with the same trainer as he had moved. And I had trainers for probably 3 or 4 years when I was first getting started, just to teach me the basics. And then I went off on my own and started doing my own thing with a coach. She was local as well, but she would just send me my programming and I would just follow the plan.
Okay. Interesting. All right. We're going to get into a little bit more of that here in a minute, but why don't you talk a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood? So where did you grow up? You mentioned swimming. I'm assuming that was a big part of your upbringing. So maybe touch on that. Siblings, kind of just paint the picture of your childhood, your upbringing up to about high school, and then we'll move on from there.
So I was actually born in Vermont, moved to Arizona when I was 4 years old. And I've been in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona ever since. I have one brother. He is not a lifter. He's just an average guy. Probably thinks his sister's crazy. He's actually a police officer. I started swimming, on a club team probably at the beginning of middle school. Continued on that club team up through high school, and then swam for the high school team as well. And after high school, I kind of forgot about swimming because I had started nursing school. Started going to the gym, like I said, just to keep my mind occupied and keep myself focusing on school. And I had met a trainer while I was going to the gym, and she had asked me, "Have you ever competed before?" I'm like, "I don't even know what that means." So she kind of educated me on the divisions, bikini, figure, physique, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I don't know if I can do that." She's like, "You absolutely can. You have the perfect frame for it. You like to lift. You're already at the gym doing cardio." So she persuaded me to do it, and I ended up doing my first competition in 2012 at the local level here in Tucson. I ended up winning and taking the overall. And then I did another show probably 2 months later in Phoenix. Again, won my class, won the overall. Thought I had it going on. Went to the USA's and got friggin' murdered. I was in the last call out and figure. I look back at those pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. But I was a rookie. I didn't know what I was getting into when I went to the USA's that first time around. I didn't realize how big of a show it was. So after that, I took probably a couple months where I was upset. I'm like, oh, I got last, rawr. And I reached out to Jamie Pinder at the time. She was the up and coming physique pro, or I think, yeah, she was already pro. So I reached out to her. She had told me who her coach was, which was Shelby Starnes at the time. I reached out to Shelby, and he had been my coach for 10 years or so.
Okay.
So he brought me to my first physique stage, which was in California in 2013. And then in 2014, we went back to the USA's, and that's where we turned pro. I did my pro debut in Chicago, 2015. Got last. I was just really small compared to those girls. So then I ended up, let's see, after Chicago, I did the Phoenix Europa. I actually placed there. I think I took eighth or ninth. And then I did the Rising Phoenix Arizona Pro. Didn't do so well there. Then I took 3 years off and just started powerlifting. Just kind of wanted to change a pace, and I knew I needed to add a lot of size. So we did some powerlifting for about 3 years, and then I injured my back, which is what brought me back to the stage. Now my back is completely healed now, but there was a good year there where I couldn't deadlift or squat anything heavy. So took some time off, and I'm a competitive person. I have to have a plan. So I'm like, I have to do something. I can't power lift, obviously, because it's injury. So after talking it over with my husband, I'm like, you know what? Let me get back on stage and see what happens. And then I won my first pro show and qualified for my first Olympia. So.
And what year was that, Melissa, that you came back and qualified for your first O?
That was 2020.
Oh, okay.
COVID year.
Yeah. Who can forget that, right? 2020. We want to forget it. That's for sure. Okay. Now, before we get any further, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit more about your upbringing. Okay. So, because obviously who we are today, a big part of that is, who we were and the experiences we had when we were younger. So first of all, swimming, like I grew up doing swim team, and then I was the swim coach here in my community for a couple summers ago. So I'm very familiar with swimming, is my point that I'm trying to get at. It's a pretty tough sport. It's a pretty demanding sport. A lot like wrestling, obviously, two different sports, but very demanding in terms of practice and conditioning. So what do you feel like, first of all, did you enjoy swimming? And then second of all, what do you feel like swimming kind of taught you, or what did it give you in terms of maybe some things that carry over into now being a professional bodybuilder?
Let's see. So swimming, I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I'm no good at it anymore because I have a lot of muscle. So I just sink. I've tried. I'm like, maybe I'll do swimming for cardio today. I've tried it a few times. Not a good idea. But it taught me to just suck it up and get it done. My parents, they weren't huge into sports. So, I mean, yeah, they came to my meets and stuff, but they weren't the most supportive as far as sports go. I always wanted to play other things, but I was never allowed to per se. Um, but it taught me to keep my head in the game. You know, if you're not gonna freaking swim, you're gonna drown. So, and that was really swimming was the only sport my mom liked. I was a butterflyer and a freestyler, so my events were 100 fly, 50 free sprint. Was never really good at long distance, so yeah.
Why didn't your mom like other sports? Like, was she just very protective of you? Are you like, is your brother older? You're the youngest, or what's the deal there?
He is older, just like a year and a half older. I think it was more they didn't want to go sit out there on the weekends and have to do that side of it, or they didn't want to pay for it because everything's expensive. But even when I first started competing in bodybuilding, my parents would come to my events. My mom was always in a hurry to get out of there. I have to get home, you know. So, needless to say, she's not the most supportive, but she's my mom. Gotta love her.
Yeah, yeah. So what do they think? Bodybuilding, whatever division you compete in, male, female, enhanced or non-enhanced, like bodybuilding is a very unique sport or endeavor, however you want to look at it or word it. What are your, like, now after all these years, like, are your parents supportive of what you do? Do they think it's weird? Do they just really don't care as long as you're happy? Like, what do they think about it now?
So, to be honest with you, I haven't spoken to them in probably 10 years.
Oh, okay.
There's no sadness involved there, but and it's mostly because of what I do, what my bodybuilding career has come into. My mom was like, I'd go over to the house for the holidays and she'd be upset because I can't eat the food that she's made. And she would nitpick everything. Why do you do that? Why do you do this? I'm like, because this is what I enjoy. If you can't support me in what I love and what I'm doing, then I'm sorry, but
See you later, right?
my brother's very supportive.
Cool. Well, that's good. That's good.
He was at the USA's when I won my pro card, so that was cool.
Excellent. Okay, yeah. Now you mentioned nursing school. How did you kind of get attracted to going into nursing school? Did you graduate? Are you a nurse now? Like, talk about kind of like whatever career job, outside of kind of the bodybuilding thing that you got going on now, or you did.
Yeah, so I got my nursing degree in 2010. I had always wanted to be a nurse growing up, not really knowing what I was getting into at that time. I did my first 7 years as a critical care ICU nurse, started there as a new grad, worked my way up, eventually becoming a charge nurse of the intensive care unit. After 7 years, I decided to do something completely different. And I actually went into nursing in the prison system. Wow. So I just stopped working at the Pima County Jail, which is our local county jail here, probably 3 months ago. I walked away from it to prep for the Olympia, and now probably not going back. Trying to build my online clientele and my one-on-one personal training. I do still need to nurse to some degree just to maintain my license. So I've been thinking about getting an emergency room gig for just as needed, probably once a month, just to maintain my license and keep my skills somewhat up because I worked so hard for my degree.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have a bachelor's in science of nursing. So that's my real career outside of bodybuilding. My backup plan.
Yeah, well, that's that's a pretty good backup plan. There's definitely job security within nursing. Now, I'm going to ask you again, kind of like with the swimming thing. did you enjoy the nursing stuff, or was it something that you kind of just fell into, it paid the bills and kind of helped supplement your passion in regards to bodybuilding?
I did and do enjoy it. It is hard work. I mean, we only work or required to work 3 days a week, but I was a night shifter since I was 18 years old. Just prior to nursing, I was a nurse tech. So I was basically like a CNA while I was going through school. But I really enjoyed it. It's hard to work nights and be in contest prep for the biggest show of your life, flip flopping back from days to nights. And my body did not love that very much. So that's why we decided a couple months out from the you know what, I'm just going to focus strictly on bodybuilding. And see, my body responded so much better not having that extra stress of flip flopping back and forth and just nursing in general. As much as I think working at the jail was not very stressful, my body showed that it was. So
okay, now I do have to ask you this because this is I hope you have some good stories, or at least one good story. Now, being a nurse and working in the kind of the jail system, like I worked at a halfway house where people are basically coming out of prison, jail, and it's an interesting environment, right? Now,
yeah.
you being a female bodybuilder and probably more jacked than every single inmate. I mean, you've got at least one good story for us, or were you kind of known amongst the people in terms of the inmates, or talk a little bit about that, or if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you got to have at least one good story for us.
The inmates never gave me much hassle. They was like, "Oh, that's the jacked nurse," and they would mess with the COs too. Like I'm not scared of you. I'm more scared of the nurse, kind of thing. I mostly work in the intake area, so I see all the new arrestees when they come in and just do a medical screening and ask some questions. But every time they'd walk in my office, they're like, "Holy shit, you're jacked." He asked me if I had a bulletproof vest on underneath my scrubs. I'm like, no, that's just my body.
Yeah, that's great. That's funny.
There's lots of crazy stuff that I said there's lots of crazy stories from that place.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you probably can't share very many of them just because of the legal side of things, but yeah. I can only imagine. Okay, now let's dive deep into the bodybuilding stuff. So you start lifting weights in college. You have some trainers kind of teach you the basics. Then you have a trainer that says, "Hey, have you ever thought about competing?" You're like, "I don't even know what that is." Now, it sounds like when you first competed in 2012, you did figure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, was that just because you didn't really know what you were doing, or was women's physique? Was it even a thing, or was it just becoming a thing at that point?
The women's physique was just becoming a thing the following year in 2013. So It really available to me yet when I started, but I also didn't have the size or the leanness at that time anyway. So
okay. Now, did you I guess because it's always interesting when I talk to a lady in terms of bodybuilding and all that, because it's like I can see where the guys kind of get into it just because of various reasons. But with ladies, it seems like it's always more interesting because it's not necessarily something girls are you grow up being exposed to as much as us guys. It's changed over the years, but still not as much. It's more of the cardio stuff and running and kind of being more fitnessy. So, I mean, once you started lifting weights, I mean, did you see a bodybuilder and then were you kind of attracted to the muscle? Like what kind of pulled you in and has kind of kept you in the bodybuilding scene? I guess that's kind of my main question point I'm trying to get out of you. You see what I'm saying, Melissa?
Yeah. So I really didn't know any bodybuilders back when I started. I just enjoyed lifting. I started lifting, and that's really what got me hooked. And then I would see, months later, the changes in my body and how I felt. So that's primarily what got me hooked on it.
Okay. And then, so when you did your first show, you won. Did you enjoy the process of prepping? Was it a good prep? Did you enjoy being on stage? Talk about that first competition.
I did enjoy it. I was nervous as hell. And I had to, back then, obviously, I was doing figures. So I had to wear heels, which is very uncomfortable for me. I've never been a girly girl type of girl. So wearing heels, being in this tiny little bikini on stage, I was very nervous. I was like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. um, but yeah, so that was primarily why I was like, I need to go to physique because I don't have to wear high heels and I can obviously get as muscular as I want, which actually didn't turn out to be that way because now I don't know if you've heard, but now I'm moving up to bodybuilding. I'm not staying in physique because I keep getting told judging feedback that my muscle is too dense for the women's physique division, and which I'm totally fine with. I don't have anything against moving up to bodybuilding. So
Yeah. No, I didn't hear that. We'll touch on that here in a minute. Okay, so that first prep, how was that first prep? You said you had kind of some local person help you. Did the prep go smoothly? Was it a bad experience in terms of the prep? Like, walk us through that for a quick minute.
it was a good experience, but I had no idea what to expect after the show. So I went through what I assume most newer competitors and female competitors just in general go through after the show. Or the next day, we didn't do any like hard diuretics or anything. I think the most I took was dandelion root, which probably didn't do anything, which is why I looked like a beluga whale on stage. But after the show, the next day, I think I weighed myself and I was up 10 pounds and I freaked out. And because nobody had told me, like, oh, when you stop drinking water and you do the carb load and blah, 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 like your body is going through a lot. So you're obviously going to gain some weight. Well, I had no clue about that. So I had a little mental breakdown the next day. And the whole drive home, I was like, my emotions were up and down and all around. So I'm like, I want to eat, but I'm scared to eat because I'm going to gain a pound. So that was the hardest part for me, was after the show.
Right. And is that something that is still hard for you, or you've been doing this for so long you just understand kind of like what that post show is going to kind of like consist of?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. Now I know after the show, obviously I'm going to gain a little weight, but I need to grow to be better. So
Right. Okay. All right. So 2012, your first competition. By 2014, you turned pro. Now, when you turned pro at the USA's in 2014, were you still a figure, or were you WPD by then?
I was WPD then.
Okay. So talk about the transition from figure to WPD. I mean, obviously, it sounds like probably from the get-go you might have done that just because of your physique and things like that. But talk a little bit about that transition, and did you enjoy that transition?
I did enjoy that transition. There wasn't really a whole lot we had to change. Believe it or not, when I won my pro card, I was only 116 pounds. So I was actually weighed less than what I weighed when I was doing figure. But as far as like dieting and training wise, we really didn't have to change much. Obviously, my food was coming down as the prep went on, but I think it was just a matter of having an experienced coach versus having the local coach that I had. That, yeah, she was good at the local level, but she was not going to bring me to the USA's in that type of condition.
Right, right. Okay. Now in regards to, before we go any further in terms of competing, let's talk about training. So how was your training kind of in the beginning, those first couple of years of you competing in figure, and then when you got your pro card, and then how has your training evolved over the years? What's it kind of like current day? Because you mentioned taking 3 years off, doing the powerlifting thing, you hurt your back. That's when you came back to bodybuilding competition. So walk us through the evolution of your training from the beginning to kind of where it's at now, Melissa.
So at the beginning of my training, I would just do your typical bodybuilder style training, like 3 sets of 10 to 15, nothing crazy heavy, no squatting, benching, or deadlifting. Didn't even have any kind of technique down for that stuff when I started. When I decided to go to the powerlifting side and take that break, I ended up hiring Susan Salazar. She's also an IFBB pro slash like very high level powerlifting competitor. So hired her probably, oh gosh, 2017, I want to say. and I've been with her ever since. So she does my weekly programming. So we do variations of squat, bench, deadlift every week. And after we do those main movements, that's followed by more of the bodybuilder style training, a lot of 5x20s, 5x15s, 7, 8 exercises. I train for probably 2 or 3 hours, 5 days a week. So yeah.
Okay. Now, so that volume and doing those compound movements, I mean, does that, do you ever think about that really like overtaxing your body in terms of breaking your body down in the sense of injuries and things like that? Or do you feel like that's how you need to train to put on muscle as a female?
I think that's how my body responds best. Of course, other people have other opinions. My husband thinks I overtrain, but we argue about that a lot. But I think that's how my body has best responded. I mean, that's what got me to the size that I'm at. So, and I mean, I don't feel like I'm going to injure myself. Obviously, I know when to pull back and when to push harder. So I know when I need to take it easy, but I think that's how I respond best.
Okay. So I mean, it's kind of like what they call like power building then, right?
That's exactly what I call it when somebody asks me about my training style.
Okay.
I say I do a power building style.
Cool. Interesting. Okay. Now, let's talk about your coach, Shelby Starnes. Is he still your current coach then?
He is. I don't use him in my off season just because I feel like I can handle my own off season just fine. I don't have any issues as far as sticking to the plan or getting too fat or anything like that. I can hold myself pretty accountable. So in my off season, I don't use him, but I will use him for my prep.
Okay. So you've been working with him for like 10 years. And I've known of Shelby for a long time. He's been in the game for a very long time. Like probably one of the first like quote unquote online coaches back in the early 2000s. So I've heard about him for years and years. But so I guess how did you kind of come about Shelby? Was it because he was kind of one of those early online coaches? I know he's very well known in terms of working with female athletes. How did you find him? And then how did he kind of take you to that next level? Because you kind of mentioned like the local coach was good for where you were at in the beginning. Shelby kind of helped you take it to that next level, get your pro card, been with you as a pro athlete. So walk us through how you found him and how he's kind of taking you to another level.
So I was actually following Jamie Pinder at the time. She had just turned pro probably right around that same time, 2013. I think probably the first year WPD was brought to life. So I reached out to her and asked who her coach was, and she was the one who sent me Shelby's way. So I think by hiring Shelby, I needed that expertise that the other coach didn't have. The attention to detail, the more frequent check-ins, a closer eye on me, basically. And then, of course, we needed to add extracurriculars to get to that next level, which the other coach was not educated on whatsoever. So
okay. Has Shelby ever given you any advice about training and kind of going back to your power building, or does he just know not to go there with you?
I think he just knows not to go there. He doesn't say much about my training. He just lets me do my thing. He does say that I'm kind of crazy when I get close to the show and I'm doing these like 400 plus pound squats or 400 plus pound deadlifts. Like, just be careful, don't injure yourself. I'm like, that's why I do everything super tempoed, super slow, just so I don't injure myself and I can feel everything as I'm moving through the movement.
Okay, cool. Let's so when you turned pro in 2014, but when was it, like before you turned pro, or maybe it was around the time you turned pro or when you turned pro, but when did you kind of decide, Melissa, like, hey, I'm going to take this bodybuilding thing as far as I can take it? Because all of us in life, no matter what we're doing or what experiences we're going through, we either decide we're going to continue in this direction or not. So when did you say, all right, this is my jam. I love this. I'm passionate about it. I'm going all in no matter what. I don't care what anybody says, including my parents. like talk about when was that? Do you remember when that was? And if so, just chat about that for a minute.
That was actually probably more recent than in the past. In the past, I kind of just did it as a hobby. And yeah, I competed like one time a year, you know, if I was able to get the time off from work and make it happen. But in 2020, when I secured that first win, that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to the Olympia for the first time. Like, holy cow. So it was at that point that I was like, this is it. I'm staying here.
Okay.
That was my ultimate goal. And I never in my wildest dream thought I would make it to the Olympia. So that was a game changer for me.
So your ultimate goal was to qualify for the Olympia, did that. Now, what's the since you reached that goal, what's the next goal then? Do you think that you can you know, be Miss Olympia now that you're transitioning into bodybuilding, or are you your goal top 3? What's your goal now?
I'd like to have a goal of top 3 at the Olympia in bodybuilding, but again, it's very competitive. And I'm starting from the bottom of that division because I'm the new one. But I mean, you see Angela, she just took second at the Olympia. This was her first go round. So that's awesome. So that's why I keep my head on that. I'm like, you know, and Andrea Shaw, she'll forever be crowned the queen until she decides to retire, in my opinion. So winning it is probably not in the foreseeable future, but I think a top 3 is doable. So that's my ultimate goal.
How do you write your goals down? Do you have a vision board? Are they in the back of your head? Like, how do you kind of go about constructing goals and then pursuing them?
They're in the back of my head.
Okay. There we go. Back
Yeah.
in the back of your head, and you just kind of keep moving in that direction. Okay. So, in terms of, I guess I want you to explain to us, specifically me, because I'm going to be honest, like going into this new year, my goal is to bring more female athletes onto the podcast, because the truth is I just haven't in the past, because I haven't really followed the female divisions. I just haven't. It's not has ever been my thing, but you guys are doing the same thing as the guys, us guys. And I want to be able to give you guys a voice and a platform as well. So that's my goal. I'm starting to get more ladies on. But for at least for my sake, what's the difference between the WPD division and then women's, bodybuilding? Is it kind of like classic physique and men's open, or am I completely off? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, it is similar to like classic physique versus men's open. So in WPD, they don't want so much muscularity. They want a small waist, which I don't have. I have a blockier waist just because I power lift. So they want more of the X frame in physique, not so much striations, less muscle density, which is what I've been told why I need to move up, because I'm blockier in the waist. I have dense muscle. My body wants to grow. We tried to shrink me for the Olympia and it did not work so well. So I think it's very similar to classic physique versus the men's open. You have the mass monsters and then you have the guys with the prettier physiques.
Okay, cool. All right. So you qualified for your first Olympian 2020. And then what place did you get at that Olympia?
That one I took 6th.
Okay. So was that first call outs then, or did they do like 5 or what?
Yeah, that was first call outs.
Okay. So first call outs at your first Olympia, like, obviously you were excited. Like, talk a little bit about that experience in 2020.
Yeah. So we're on the diagonal. As soon as they called my number in the first call out, I'm like, did I hear that right? I think that was my number. There's no way I'm making the first call out this time around, but I did. So that was huge for me. I was ecstatic about that placing.
Yeah. Okay. But tell us a little bit more about the experience in terms of like being at the Olympia. Obviously it was COVID year, so there's a lot going on. They pushed it way back till December. So, were you like a girl in the candy store, a kid in the candy store when you were there, seeing all these people that you connected with on Instagram or knew from Instagram and things like that? Like, what was that experience like actually being at the Olympia?
Um, it was hard to process until after, actually.
Yeah.
There just living in the moment, but it didn't really set in until we were home. And I was like, wow, that just happened.
Hmm.
I just got on the biggest stage in the world of bodybuilding. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then, what happened then in 2021? What did you competed, but you didn't qualify for the Olympia, correct?
no, I did. I was actually double qualified. I think I have my timeline wrong. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's
Um,
fine. That's fine.
so I won the Arizona Pro two times in a row, 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
So I think my first Olympia, I'm sorry, was 2021, not 2020.
Okay.
But I had thought, I think in 2021, we thought that was going to qualify me for 2022, but they're like, no, you're just double qualified for this year's Olympia.
Okay.
So I won the Arizona Pro twice, ended up taking second the third time around this year, which was sad because I wanted a three-peat, but we can't always win.
Right. Um, so I guess when did you kind of like, so you get first call, it's at your first Olympia in WPD. When did you start getting the feedback from the judges that maybe you need to move up to women's bodybuilding? Because then this year at the Olympia, I saw on your Instagram, you got 8th place. So was it after this year's Olympia when you kind of started like hearing the feedback and you kind of started thinking like, maybe it's time for me to move up? Like, talk about that decision.
I've been getting that feedback this whole year in the 3 shows that I've done. So I did Texas where I won and got my Olympia qualification, but it was there that they told me like, don't get any bigger. Like you're riding that line of having to move up. And then I did the Arizona Pro where they gave me second, and told Sandy and Becky told me the same thing, you're wider in the waist, you have very dense muscle. So it's probably in your future to move up to bodybuilding. And then of course I took a 2-place lower placing at the Olympia. So, and then I just look at the pictures and I'm like, yeah, it's time.
Yeah. But I mean, was this year's WPD Olympia, was that like more competitive? Because placings can be, that doesn't really always mean a whole lot, especially depending upon the lineup strength. So was the lineup this year stronger, or do you just really feel like it's time to move up? Your physique's just maybe not fitting into WPD.
I think both. I think it was more competitive, and my physique is not quite fit for that division anymore. Um, there were a lot of the same competitors, but a lot of the same competitors brought very good packages this year. So the lineup was definitely more stout.
Okay. All right. So when did you start? The Olympia was your 3rd competition. When did you start prep this year? Because you did 2 other competitions, as you said. And then how did your preps go? Were they all pretty smooth? Did you have some hiccups? Walk us through a little bit of this entire year, because you were probably on prep most of the entire year, right?
Yeah, I think we started back in April. And so we did Texas, and then I had a 12-week break in between Texas and the Arizona Pro. So we did a rebound for probably, I want to say like 2 weeks, where I ate quite a bit, got a lot of extra meals in, and then we went back into more of a strict cut. And then from the Arizona Pro to the Olympia, that was probably the harder of the preps, only because we knew we needed to keep my size down. So we did a lot of no carb days. We were trying to keep my weight at a certain weight, which was not working so well. Shelby wanted to keep me down like 144, but my body was like, no. Every time I get on the scale, it's still 146. So even with the added cardio and the little food, I was feeling it for sure.
Yeah.
But that 6 weeks there was probably the hardest between Arizona and the Olympia.
How much cardio were you doing in the prep for Olympia?
I want to say we got up to an hour. It would vary. I was checking in daily, so every day it would change. But I think the most we did 2 days where we did 90 minutes. That was rough. because we did 90 minutes and he brought my food way down just to try to trick my body and get me to drop some weight. We had the calories at like 800 calories for the day plus 90 minutes of cardio. That was only, like I said, for 2 days, but it was rough. Aside from that, I think the highest cardio we were doing is about an hour.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit now. Do you and your husband own your own gym, or do you guys just train at like some sort of hardcore gym? Because I see what looks like a pretty legit gym where you guys train at there in Arizona.
Yeah, we own Be Strong Powerhouse. We have 2 locations here in Tucson.
Okay.
Oh, we have had the first one for 6 years now, and the second location for 2 years.
Okay. So talk about opening up a gym, because I own a gym and that's like a whole nother monster. You're doing nursing and you're competing as a pro athlete. I know your husband's also a competitive NPC bodybuilder. So what went into you guys opening your first gym or purchasing your first gym? Talk about that a little bit. Like, why did you guys even want to do that in the first place, outside of being bodybuilders and liking to lift weights? Because there's more to it than that when it comes to owning or opening a gym. So talk about that.
So when we first met, I used to train out at a gym here that was called Hardcore 24, which was a similar vibe to what we have now. That gym only lasted probably about a year, and then it went out of business. So when we had met, I had taken him out there with me, and he's kind of just looking around at the equipment like, this place is closing. I think we can open our own gym. So he opened the first location primarily for me, because I wanted a hardcore place to train at, and Hardcore 24 was going to close. So he ended up purchasing a bunch of equipment from Hardcore 24. And then we found the location. I didn't really do and I still don't do a whole lot of the business side of it. That's his gig. That's what he's really good at and has been good at his whole life. He owned a construction business prior to opening the gyms. So he opened it for me. We got a whole bunch of equipment. So when we first started, I think the whole gym was 2,000 square feet. It was very small. We had very limited amount of equipment, but we had squat, bench, deadlift, and a couple machines. And then over the years, it's just grown and grown and grown. And now we have, probably 6,000 square feet. And we have a whole lot more equipment. And then we've opened our second location, which is about the same size.
Yeah. Now what's the you said you're in the Tucson, Arizona, area, correct?
Correct.
What's the, I mean, there's a lot of pro bodybuilders in all kinds of divisions in Arizona, but like in your guys' neck of the woods, the Tucson area, what's the bodybuilding scene like? Is it growing? Is it stagnant? Is it non-existent? Like what's it like out there?
It's growing slowly. I mean, we have a men's physique pro. We have myself. We have a couple figure pros and a couple bikini pros. But in Phoenix, it's much bigger community out there. So we have a small community, but like I said, it's slowly growing. There are a lot of people that compete, a lot of people that are trying to get their pro cards. So,
okay. What's your favorite piece of equipment in either location of your guys' gyms?
Well, my favorite is deadlifting. So I'd just say, yeah.
Okay. Okay. How about this? What's your favorite type of deadlift bar?
The deadlift bar. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Is it Texas Pro, Rogue bar? What do you got for me? Or you don't even care?
We have Texas strength bars at our facility mainly. We do have a couple Rogue bars, but I mostly pull on the Texas bar.
Okay. Those are good. That's good. That's good. Is there now, okay, you like to deadlift, but in terms of equipment, do you like the new school stuff, the old school stuff, or a combination of both? Like, where are you at with that?
Mostly old school stuff.
Okay. What Cybex, Body Masters, which one?
Cybex.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
Love it.
Cybex hack squat. We call it the humbler.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that a lot. Okay. Now, how did you tell me, remind me, I can't remember. What's your husband's first name again?
Rafe, Rafe.
Rafe. Okay. How did you guys meet? At the gym?
Yeah, we met at
Okay.
one of the commercial gyms here. It's called Desert Sports and Fitness.
Okay.
So I had a friend who worked at the front desk, and he knew her from the front desk, so she kind of hooked us up.
So yeah, these stories are the best. Now, did he approach you first or did you approach him first?
So I was sitting on the lat pull down. He was doing, I think, seated calf raises or something, and we happened to make eye contact. But we already knew that we were after each other because of my friend. So when we made eye contact, it was like that, oh crap, like, and then I pulled my headphone off, and then that's how it all happened.
The rest is history, as
Yeah.
they say.
I think it was the same day we ended up going out to that other gym, Hardcore 24.
Yeah.
He would take me out there sometime, and I'm like, is this guy trying to hit on me, or is he just wants to go to the other gym? I don't know.
Well, if you're going to the gym though, it doesn't at that point, you didn't matter because you're going to go to another gym, right? So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good. Cool. All right. Melissa, I guess I want to ask you, in terms of any ladies out there that are thinking about getting into competing, whether that's bikini or figure or WPD or bodybuilding, we'll just kind of keep it open, keep it general. But what's some of your words of wisdom, or what's some advice for ladies out there that want to get into competing, whatever division that is? Like from all of your experiences, what's some advice that you can give? What's some wisdom that you can share with them?
Find a good coach and stick to him. Okay. Coach hopping is not going to make you any better, any faster. You have to stick to the plan and give it 100% every day.
Right. Okay. So then the follow-up question is, how do you find the right coach or a good coach? Because the coach industry is absolutely flooded nowadays. So from your perspective, how would somebody go about that knows nothing about competing, nothing about bodybuilding? How do they find a good or right coach?
Do your research. Find the competitors that are doing what you want to do. Reach out to them, get their input, because word of mouth is almost probably the best way to go about finding a coach.
Right. Okay. And then you said that you do online coaching, and that's kind of an area that you're trying to grow as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. When did you kind of start coaching, and talk a little bit about that?
I've been doing it off and on for a couple of years now. It takes a back seat when I'm prepping for the Olympia, obviously, because I need to focus on myself. I do some one-on-one, not a whole bunch. I'm trying to pick that up though, because I'm not nursing full-time anymore. Mm-hmm. So
do you only coach competitors? Is it anybody and everybody? Where are you at with that?
Anyone and everyone. Beginner, advanced, current competitors, power lifters, anything.
Okay. Male, female?
Female. Okay. I have no quals.
Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. I want to ask you just a couple lighter, fun questions. First of all, do you have a nickname or not?
People just call me Miss Beast most times.
Okay, so that's your Instagram handle, right?
They call us the Beast.
Okay, cool. Give me two of your biggest gym pet peeves.
Re-rack your plates.
Okay.
My gosh, I can't tell you how many times we walk into our gym and everything in there has a plate or something on it.
How do you guys handle that? Do you guys get on the cameras and people's memberships, or what?
We get on the cameras. We see people do it. Like, well, let's see somebody load up and just walk out. So my husband's the one that has to approach those people. Yeah. See, at my gym, I've got cameras because we're a 24-hour gym. So it's like I walk in the morning. If there's weights left out or whatever, plates on a bar, like I get on the cameras and I tell people as they sign up, I'm like, I've got cameras. I check them when necessary, or if somebody leaves something out, I said, and I'm just going to let you know, you're going to get a friendly reminder text from me. Hey, to put this away or put the plates away, like whatever. Like I have cameras. I look at them. So just FYI, but people, either they forget
or they just don't care. But yeah, I can't stand that. Any other gym pet peeves, or is that kind of the biggest one?
People that talk to me in the middle of a set. I have my headphones in. I'm trying to concentrate.
Okay. Okay. People, I how do people do that though? Don't they know that you're like locked in, that you're doing your thing? Like, leave me alone. Like,
Yeah, especially
people don't get it, huh?
deep in prep too. It's like I already feel like crap. Like the last thing I want is to have to keep pulling my headphone out every 2 seconds to talk to somebody. I just want to get my work done so I could get out.
Yeah, right, right. I know people are nuts.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are your plans for this year? Now that we're in 2023, are you taking the year off? Are you going to compete in bodybuilding? Like, where are you at with that?
I'm going to compete in bodybuilding, I think is the plan. We're probably going to do either, or maybe both, Chicago Pro and Tampa Pro, since they're pretty close together. I think 2 weeks apart or 1 week apart. And then I'm hoping if I do well at either one of those to get an invite to the Rising Phoenix. If we make it to that, and then also if I can secure a win at any of the shows, I'd like to step on the bodybuilding stage at the Olympia.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. What outside of just putting on overall size, are there some specific body parts that you're really focusing on in this off season?
Shoulders and biceps need to come up for sure.
Okay. What have you typically done in the past for biceps and for arms? I mean, is it that like the 20 rep stuff that you do, or something different?
I'll be honest. I don't really have an arm day. Like I might have one or two bicep exercises programmed on my back day. So I need to actually have an actual arm day now. I do plenty of triceps because I bench all the time. And I do a lot of tricep accessory work on those days. But bicep wise, I've never in the past really focused on them. So
okay, cool.
That's definitely what needs to come up for bodybuilding, because my arms from the bicep side are very small.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. I think we're going to end it there, Melissa. I think we covered a lot of different topics. So before I do a quick outro, I want to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts, any final words that you might have, any shout outs. Make sure you give us your Instagram. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll do a quick outro, then I'll let you go. So whatever you got for us in closing, platform's yours.
Give me a follow, Miss Beast 25 _, IFBB Pro on Instagram. Check out our gym website if you're interested in training or coaching. www.beaststrong, beast, BEAST, strong, just like it says on my sweater, powerhouse.com. I always want to thank my sponsor, Angel Competition Bikinis. My husband, Ray, for dealing with me. Shelby for coaching me all these years. Susan for coaching me all these years. The panel of IFBB judges for leading me in the right direction to where my body needs to be on the stage in order to be the most competitive. So.
Cool. In regards to coaching, I know you said the website, but can people also reach out to you just on Instagram for coaching inquiries as well, or prefer the website?
No, they can definitely reach out to me, but if they want to see what plans are available and cost and whatnot, the website has everything on it. So
okay, perfect. All right, Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're welcome. All of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle Podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. If you guys have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button in regards to Behind the Muscle Podcast on YouTube. And then also please take this episode with Melissa, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Melissa, tag Behind the Muscle Podcast, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.